There are moments in life that shift the ground beneath your feet. Moments where everything seems normal, until suddenly it's not. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday night in the most mundane way possible. My wife forgot her phone on the kitchen counter. Not dramatic, not suspicious, just an accident. But accidents? They have a funny way of revealing exactly what you weren't supposed to see. I was rinsing out my coffee mug when I heard it. A soft vibration. A screen lighting up in the dim kitchen. Bzzzt. My first instinct wasn't suspicion. It was annoyance. Amy was always leaving her phone in random places. On top of the fridge, inside the pantry, once even in the freezer, don't ask. So I didn't think twice. I reached for it, intending to bring it upstairs. But then, I saw the message. Last weekend was unforgettable. I can still feel you. It was like someone had punched me in the chest. Not, hey, great seeing you. Not looking forward to next time. No, I can still feel you. Like heat. Like pressure. Like a physical memory lingering on their skin. I actually laughed in that disbelieving, panicked way where your brain refuses to process what's happening. This has to be a joke, right? Because there was no last weekend. Last weekend, Amy had been at a teacher's conference. A boring, standard work trip, just like the dozens she'd gone on before. Except now apparently someone could still feel her. A part of me, the part that didn't want my world to collapse, desperately tried to rationalize it. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe it's an inside joke. Maybe it's... And then I saw the contact name. No name. Just a single red heart emoji. Red heart. Yeah, not great. I stood there, gripping the phone, trying to decide what the hell to do next. Should I open it? I mean, technically, it wasn't locked. Amy had one of those Face ID setups, but the notification was already showing. A tiny preview of a full conversation just waiting to be swiped open. But here's the thing. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to know. Because I did. And that was the problem. Because the second I opened that message, I couldn't unknow it. I'd be stepping into a place where there was no going back. So I did what any reasonable, emotionally mature husband would do. I put the phone back on the counter, walked to the fridge and grabbed a beer. Sat down, stared at the phone, cracked open the beer, took a long, slow sip, and thought, well, I guess this is happening. See, most people think betrayals come with big, dramatic music. Some swelling orchestra in the background. Maybe a thunderstorm, a cinematic reveal. But in reality, infidelity doesn't arrive in a grand explosion. It arrives quietly, in an accidental text message, a forgotten phone, a single heart emoji sitting there like a loaded gun on the counter. I glanced at the clock. Amy would be home in 10 minutes. What the hell do I do now? I didn't say anything that night. Not because I was in denial. Not because I was scared. But because I wanted to be sure. I needed more than a single text message before I burned everything to the ground. So I sat there, drinking my beer, staring at my wife's phone like it was a ticking bomb on my kitchen counter. And then, just before she walked through the door, I put it right back where she left it. Amy came home smiling, like she didn't have a single worry in the world. Like she hadn't just left her husband to find the first crack in our entire damn life together. Hey, babe, she said, dropping her work bag by the door. She kicked off her shoes, stretching her arms over her head. God, I'm exhausted. I nodded, watching her. She had no idea. No idea. I cleared my throat. Good conference? Oh yeah, super productive. The keynote speaker was kind of boring, but I got a ton of great ideas for my curriculum this fall. She said it so casually, like she wasn't just lying. I wanted to ask her. I almost did, but instead, I just gave her a small smile and said, glad to hear it. Because if I was going to catch her, I needed to be patient. The next morning, I checked our joint credit card statement. Not because I expected anything suspicious, just because it seemed logical. If she was lying about where she was, I figured her spending would tell me exactly where she'd been. And that's when I saw it. A $185 charge at a luxury hotel bar in a completely different city. Not the city where her conference was. I blinked at the screen. What the hell? I clicked into the transaction details. It wasn't a hotel stay. Not a room. Just a bar. $185. At a bar. Which meant drinks. Which meant not alone. I felt my stomach turn. Amy barely drank. maybe a margarita on vacation, or a glass of wine at dinner. But she wasn't the type to drop nearly $200 at a hotel bar on her own. Who was she with? And more importantly, why did she lie? I took a deep breath. I needed more. So I called her. She picked up immediately. Hey, everything okay? Yeah, I said, keeping my voice light. Just thinking about taking you out this weekend. What was the name of the hotel you stayed at? Maybe we can do a little staycation. A tiny pause. Too tiny. Then, we stayed at the Hilton. The Hilton. Not the name on the receipt in my hand. I clenched my jaw, forcing a chuckle. Really? Thought your itinerary said the Marriott. Another pause. Then, too quickly, oh, right. Marriott. That's what I meant. That's what she meant. And just like that, I knew. She wasn't just hiding something. She was bad at it. And that meant this was going to be easier than I thought. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just lay there in bed, watching Amy sleep, wondering how the hell we got here. It was like looking at a stranger. The woman I married, the mother of my kids, the person I thought I knew better than anyone, had just lied to my face without hesitation. And the worst part? She actually thought I bought it. By morning, I had a plan. No direct confrontation. Not yet. Instead, I was going to do something way more dangerous. I was going to wait. Because liars? They get comfortable. They start believing their own stories. And the more comfortable they get, the sloppier they become. At breakfast, Amy was her usual self, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone, chatting with the kids, completely unaware that she was walking around on a thin layer of ice. And I was standing there, waiting for it to crack. So, I said casually, buttering my toast. Did you guys go out at all during the conference? She didn't even look up. Yeah, a few of us grabbed dinner one night. Nothing crazy. I nodded. Where? And that was the moment. The tiny moment she didn't even realize was important. Because she said, without thinking, oh, just some Italian place near the hotel. I sipped my coffee. The Hilton? She froze. For a fraction of a second. A blink. A hesitation. Then, too quickly, too casually, yeah, I felt the rush of it. That pure, electric moment when you know you just caught someone in a lie, and they don't even realize it yet. I didn't push. I just let it sit there. Because now I was sure. I spent the rest of the day thinking about what to do next. Do I hire a PI? Check her phone? Confront her? But fate had other plans. Because I didn't have to go looking for the truth. The truth was about to find me. In the worst way possible. The thing about secrets? They never stay hidden. Not forever. And sometimes, when they come out, they explode in ways you never saw coming. This time, it was my kids who found out first. And when they did, they were the ones who decided she wasn't coming back. It started with something harmless, completely innocent. Amy had taken our daughter, Julie, to the mall that afternoon. Some mother-daughter time. Nothing unusual. But while they were out, our 12-year-old son, Ben, asked to borrow Amy's laptop. He needed to print something for school. I wasn't even paying attention. I was on the couch, half watching a baseball game, scrolling my phone. Then, Dad. I looked up. Ben was standing in the hallway, holding his mom's laptop like it had just bitten him. His face was pale, eyes wide. Something just popped up, he said, and I think you need to see it. I felt a cold weight in my stomach. Ben walked over and turned the laptop screen toward me. And there it was, a pop-up email notification, right in the corner of the screen, from someone named David Redhart. Subject line, missing you already. I felt the blood drain from my face. I clicked the notification. The email opened. And what I read, it destroyed the last shred of doubt I had left. David Redhart, I had such an amazing time with you. Wish we had more than one night. You're incredible. When can I see you again? Amy, God, I know. I can still feel you. This was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but I'll never forget it. Ben was still standing there, staring at the screen. He looked at me, confused. Dad, why is Mom saying she can still feel someone? I swallowed. Hard. I wanted to close the laptop. Hide it. Pretend this moment wasn't happening. But it was. And now my kid was tangled in the middle of it. I took a deep breath. Hey, buddy, I said, keeping my voice calm, steady. Let's not say anything yet, okay? I need to figure out what's going on. He hesitated, then nodded. Okay. But the damage? It was already done. Because Ben didn't keep it quiet. Instead, he told his sister. And when Julie found out, all hell broke loose. You ever see a single domino tip over? Just one tiny push, and suddenly the whole row collapses. That's exactly what happened next. And Amy? She had no idea that she was about to walk into her own destruction. Julie came home angry, not confused, not hurt, furious. She stormed in, slammed the front door, and made a beeline for me. Dad! I barely had time to react before she dropped her backpack, folded her arms, and glared. Julie had always been sharp, scary smart, the kind of kid who noticed everything, even when you thought she wasn't paying attention. So when she opened her mouth, I already knew she had figured out something. Did Mom cheat on you? I froze. Ben was standing behind her, looking guilty. I closed my eyes for a second, exhaled. Why are you asking me that? Julie rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't fall out of her head. Ben showed me the email, she said. You think I'm stupid? Jesus Christ. It had taken me days to piece together Amy's lies. It had taken Julie all of 30 minutes. I didn't know what to say. But before I could open my mouth, Julie grabbed her phone. I'm calling her. I shot up from the couch. Whoa, hold on. Julie's finger hovered over the screen. I just want to hear her say it, she said. Julie, but it was too late. She hit dial, put it on speaker. The phone rang. Once, twice, and then Amy picked up. Hey, sweetie, what's up? Julie didn't even hesitate. Mom, who's David? Silence. Then a small, nervous laugh. Oh, honey, what are you talking about? Julie didn't blink. We saw your emails, she said. Flat, cold. You said you could still feel him. More silence. Longer this time. I could feel the tension through the phone. Then, Amy's voice shifted. Not warm. Not motherly. Just sharp. Where did you see that? Julie's lip curled. Does it matter? Amy sighed. Like she was annoyed. Like this whole thing was some inconvenient little mess she now had to clean up. And that was when I knew. Julie knew it too. Because when she spoke again, her voice broke. Did you cheat on Dad? And Amy? She hesitated. For too long. Sweetie, it's complicated. And just like that, Julie ended the call, tossed her phone on the table, turned to me, eyes brimming with betrayal. I don't want her here anymore. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't the one who was going to kick Amy out. Our children were. You ever see someone try to shove spilled water back into a glass? That's what Amy was about to do. Except this wasn't just water. This was our entire family slipping through her fingers. And she had no idea that when she walked through that door, her own kids would be waiting to throw her out. Amy got home 15 minutes later. She must have driven like a bat out of hell, because I heard the tires screech outside. The front door burst open, and there she was, breathless, red-faced, clutching her purse like it was the last thing holding her together. Her eyes darted around, searching for Julie. For Ben. For me. Where are they? She demanded. Upstairs. She exhaled, a relieved breath, like she thought she had time to get ahead of this, like she thought she could still fix it. Then she turned to me. I was still sitting on the couch, one arm draped over the side, watching her without a single word. She tried to soften her voice, tried to reach for normal. Honey, I don't. That stopped her. Her lips pressed together. For the first time since this started, I saw real panic in her eyes. Julie misunderstood. No, I said, standing up. She didn't. She flinched. For a second, just a second, I could see her mind scrambling for a way out. A lie. A deflection. A way to spin this into something else. But then, footsteps thudded down the stairs. Julie appeared in the hallway. Ben right behind her. And when Amy saw the look on their faces, the fight drained right out of her. Julie spoke first. Voice calm. Controlled. Did you cheat on Dad? Amy inhaled sharply. Sweetie, it's yes or no. Amy hesitated. And that was enough. Julie turned to me. I want her gone. Amy's eyes widened. Like she hadn't expected this. Like she thought she'd have time to explain, manipulate, twist her way out of it. But Julie wasn't letting her. Neither was Ben. Because my son, my quiet, easygoing, mama's boy of a son, looked his mother in the eyes and shook his head. You're not my mom anymore. And that broke her. Amy staggered back, like the words had physically hit her. Ben, she choked. Baby, don't. He just walked past her, didn't touch her, didn't say another word, just walked away. Julie didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even look at her mother anymore. And then, in the softest, coldest voice I'd ever heard, she said, "Get out." And Amy? Amy finally realized she had lost. Amy didn't leave right away. No, she did something way worse. She tried to fight. Not physically, she wasn't that stupid, but verbally, emotionally. She was about to claw and scratch and lie her way back into this house if it killed her. And what she said next, it changed everything. Her face twisted, not in guilt, not in regret, but in pure, stunned disbelief. Like she couldn't fathom that her own children had just turned on her. Like this wasn't a consequence she ever imagined. Her eyes darted to me, looking for backup, looking for me to fix it. Like I was supposed to step in and tell the kids, now, let's not be dramatic. Instead, I just stood there, watching, waiting, letting her drown in what she'd done. Her breathing turned sharp. "I cannot believe this," she whispered. Julie folded her arms. "Believe it." Amy turned to me, tried to laugh it off, like this was all some big misunderstanding. "Honey, come on," she said, smiling, actually smiling, like she still thought she could manipulate her way out of this. "We're not doing this." I just stared at her. I said. Amy's smile faltered. Then, in the softest voice imaginable, I asked, "Did you even feel guilty?" She blinked. "What?" "When you came home," I said. "When you kissed me. When you hugged our kids. When you sat at this table and told me about your conference. Did you feel guilty?" She froze. And that was the moment she realized she wasn't just losing me. She was losing them too. Her voice shook. "It wasn't like that," Julie scoffed. "Then what was it like?" Amy exhaled sharply, like she was trying to stay calm, like she still thought she could steer this conversation. "It was just a mistake," she said. "A one-time thing. That's it." Julie didn't even hesitate. "Who's David?" "And Amy?" Amy flinched, like she had just been slapped. I felt my stomach twist, because I wasn't expecting that. I had spent days gathering proof. I had dug through receipts, through emails, through inconsistencies in her stories. But somehow, my teenage daughter had found a name before I did. Amy looked panicked, like a trapped animal, like the walls were closing in. Julie tilted her head, and then softly, mercilessly, "Dad didn't tell me," she said. "Your laptop did." "And Amy?" Amy turned white. If guilt had a sound, it would be silence. Because that's exactly what filled the room after Julie said those words. Amy stood there completely still, not defending herself, not arguing, not even denying it, because she couldn't. Her own laptop had betrayed her. And the worst part? Julie had found out before I did. Amy's eyes flicked to me, searching for something, a way out, a life raft, some tiny sliver of hope that I would step in, defend her, tell the kids that they were too young to understand. But I just stood there, because I understood perfectly. Julie? She understood perfectly. Ben? He was hiding behind her, his face pale, looking at his mother like she was a stranger. Amy swallowed, visibly, and then, finally, she cracked. Her hands shook. "Okay," she whispered. Her voice was so small now. "I made a mistake." Julie's eyes narrowed. "A mistake?" Amy nodded frantically, like she could convince us all if she just agreed fast enough. "It didn't mean anything." I clenched my jaw, because that was worse. It didn't mean anything. Like our marriage didn't mean anything. Like our family didn't mean anything. Like the years we had built together, all the love, all the loyalty, all the trust, were worthless. I took a slow breath, and in the calmest voice imaginable, I asked, "Did he know you were married?" Amy flinched, because she knew exactly what I was asking. "Did you lie to him too? Did you take off your wedding ring? Did you pretend to be someone else? Did you sit at that bar, laughing and flirting, while I was at home tucking our kids into bed?" Amy's mouth opened, closed, then a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. And that was the final nail in her coffin. Julie exhaled sharply. Then she grabbed her phone, took a deep breath, and before I could stop her, she pulled up the family group chat. typed exactly 3 words. Mom cheated. Leave. And hit send. Amy's entire face fell. She lunged forward, reaching for the phone. Julie. But it was too late. The message was out. The truth was out. And for the first time ever, Amy was the one who couldn't take it back. Amy lost it. Not crying. Not apologizing. Just rage. Like somehow she was the victim in all this. Like we were the ones ruining her life. Her face twisted as she whipped toward Julie. You had no right, she hissed. Julie didn't even blink. I had every right. Amy's chest rose and fell rapidly. I could see her mind racing, looking for a way to twist this, to take control. And then, suddenly, her eyes lit up, like she'd just figured out her golden ticket. She straightened, took a breath, and when she spoke, her voice was calm, sweet, soft, like she was so sure she could gaslight her way out of this. Oh, honey, she said gently. You don't even know what you saw. That email, it was just a misunderstanding. I was talking about the conference, not another man. Julie's mouth fell open. Are you serious? Amy nodded. Like that was that. Like she had just fixed everything. Then she turned to me. Mark, she said. Tell them. My stomach curled. Because I knew what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to play along. To sit our kids down and say, your mother and I are fine. This is all one big mistake. That way, she could rewrite history. Bury the truth. Gaslight our own children into thinking none of this was real. Amy took a step closer. Lowered her voice. Please, she whispered. And I just smiled. A slow, knowing smile. Because for the first time ever, she was the one who didn't know what was coming next. I let her think she had won. For exactly 2 days. While Amy tried to rewrite the truth, I was busy preparing her real punishment. And when she got served with divorce papers at work, she had the audacity to be shocked. I wish I could have seen her face. She called me 6 times in a row. Did I answer? No, because I was already sitting in my lawyer's office, watching her plan our total destruction. Amy wanted to lie her way out of this? Fine. I was going to bury her with the truth. The courtroom was silent. Amy sat across from me, looking polished, perfect, like she actually thought she could convince a judge that this was all some big misunderstanding. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client's husband is making baseless accusations. There is no proof of infidelity, only speculation. The judge nodded. Looked at my lawyer. Do you have proof? And my lawyer? She just smiled. Actually, she said, hitting play on the recording, we do. Amy's voice filled the courtroom. Her own words, her own breathless, giddy confession from the night she came home, laughing, describing every detail of how she had cheated. The judge's face darkened. Amy? She turned to stone. And then, just when she thought it couldn't get worse, my lawyer pulled out the next piece of evidence. The signed photo. The one her hall pass lover had left her. Except there was a twist. Because the man Amy thought was a TV star, he wasn't. He was a fraud. A con artist who specifically targeted married women. Amy's mouth fell open. Her hands shook. And for the first time in her life, she finally looked ashamed. Amy had no words. She just sat there, completely still, as the courtroom absorbed what had just happened. The judge slowly removed his glasses, pinched the bridge of his nose, then looked straight at Amy. Mrs. Butler, he said, do you understand the severity of your actions? She swallowed hard. Your Honor, I. He held up a hand, and the next words out of his mouth. They destroyed her. Your children already ruled on this before I had to. Amy's face twisted, because she knew exactly what that meant. The judge let out a breath. I have reviewed the evidence. The lies. The deception. The betrayal. A long pause. Then, finally, custody goes to Mr. Butler. Amy's entire world collapsed. She gasped. Actually gasped. Like she couldn't believe this was happening to her. She turned toward me, desperate. Tears in her eyes. Mark, please, she whispered. Not the kids. Don't take the kids. I stared at her. At the woman I once loved. At the stranger sitting across from me now. Then I said, calmly, clearly, you took yourself away from them first. Amy's face crumpled. She knew it was over. The judge nodded, banged his gavel. Case closed. But Amy? Amy wasn't done ruining her own life, because when she left the courthouse, she ran straight into a local news crew. And what she did next, it would be all over the internet within hours. The reporter, a sharp-looking woman with a microphone, was already waiting. Cameras rolling. And the second Amy stepped outside, she pounced. "Mrs. Butler, do you regret your actions?" Amy's head snapped up, her eyes wild, panicked. The reporter pressed forward. "Was it worth it? Destroying your family for a one-night stand?" I saw it happen in slow motion. Amy's breathing turned sharp. Her fists clenched, her entire body tensed. Then, before anyone could react, she lunged at the reporter, grabbed her hair, screamed, "You don't know anything." The reporter stumbled back, cameraman shouting, bystanders gasping. And then, a sharp, electric sound, a taser. Amy's body went stiff. And just like that, she hit the pavement. Hard. People scattered. Police swarmed. Reporters shouted questions. And Amy? Amy lay there, twitching, in front of the entire city. A disgraced former wife. A disgraced former mother. And now, a criminal. Because when you lose everything, sometimes you decide to take yourself down too. Amy went from suburban mother to viral disaster in less than 24 hours. Her courtroom humiliation? Bad. Her live-on-camera attack? So much worse. Every news station had it. Every gossip site. Even national networks picked it up. Disgraced wife tossed after public breakdown. Local woman loses custody, loses control. By the time she was officially charged with assault and disorderly conduct, her face had been memed into oblivion. And when the sentence came down, 6 months in county jail, Amy Butler was officially a convicted felon. I wish I could say I felt something, that I felt satisfaction, revenge, closure. But mostly, I felt tired, not sad, not angry, just done. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't celebrating. I was picking up the pieces, being a single dad, helping my kids heal. And Amy? Amy was sitting in a cell, replaying her worst moment on every news station in America. She had destroyed everything with her own hands. And that was a punishment I could never top. 3 months into her sentence, I got the first letter. Then another. And another. Amy begging me to visit. I ignored them, so she started calling. I blocked the number. Then, she sent one final letter. It was handwritten. Long, desperate. "Mark, I don't know where to start. I've lost everything. The kids, my job, my reputation, my freedom. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything. But I miss you. I miss us. I miss our family. Please, when I get out, can we just talk? Just once? I still love you. I always will. Amy." I sat there, staring at the letter. And for the first time in months, I actually laughed. Because even now, after everything, she still didn't get it. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she lost. And the fact that she thought there was still a chance, that I would ever take her back, that I would ever let her step foot into our home again, that was the funniest thing I had ever heard. When Amy got out of jail, I agreed to meet her. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed her to hear, once and for all, that we were over. She suggested her mother's house, neutral territory. Fine by me. I wanted my kids nowhere near this conversation. I drove over that evening, the autumn sky darkening early. The leaves were falling, brittle and brown, crunching under my boots as I walked up the path. Her mom met me at the door, her eyes filled with pity. "She's in the living room," she said quietly. I nodded and stepped inside. There she was, Amy, dressed in old sweats, hair pulled back, face pale and drawn. She looked older, tired, like she'd been hollowed out from the inside. "Mark," she whispered. "Thank you for coming." I said nothing, just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She cleared her throat, fiddling nervously with a bracelet on her wrist. "I know I've lost everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying, for hurting you. I'm so ashamed of myself." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Her eyes flickered with hope. "I've changed. I've had a lot of time to think. And I miss us. I miss our family. I love you, Mark. I always have. I felt a bitter laugh bubbling up, but I held it back. Is that it? She blinked. What do you mean? I leaned forward, my voice cold. You apologize for lying, for getting caught. But not once have you apologized for what you did. For cheating, for breaking your vows. You miss our family? You had a chance to protect it, and you threw it away for some con artist? Her lip trembled. Mark, it was a mistake. A one-time thing. Stop. I held up a hand. You still don't get it. This isn't about a mistake. This is about a choice. You chose to betray me, to lie to me. And when the truth came out, you tried to twist it, gaslight us, make us think we were crazy. Even your own kids. Her face crumpled, tears spilling over. Please, I'll do anything to fix this. Just give me a chance. No, I stood up, taking a deep breath. There is no fixing this. We're done, Amy. Forever. And if you ever try to come near me or the kids again, I'll make sure you regret it. She stared at me, the reality sinking in. Mark, I'm sorry. I enjoyed it. There, is that what you wanted to hear? I looked at her, my heart completely cold. No, Amy. What I wanted was the truth. And now that I have it, I want nothing more to do with you. I turned and walked toward the door, Amy's sobs echoing behind me. Her mother caught my arm, her eyes pleading. Mark, please. She's lost so much. I shook her off. She lost everything because she deserved to. Then I walked out into the crisp autumn night, knowing it was the last time I'd ever look back.